Hello and welcome to the Cultivating Calmness Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about family dynamics, relational dynamics, and how we kind of play into those roles and the kind of conflict and other things that can go on between ourselves and the ones we care about most, and what that's been like for me personally and professionally. So thank you for joining me today. We will jump right in. I often gain some of these topics that I talk about just from some of either my personal experience or some of the things that come up in the therapy room, or maybe a little bit of both. And today I wanted to just kind of touch on and ask questions, really. I don't have all of the answers, but in just some of the things that I have witnessed, with my clients, and, I've had to do some self-reflection and witness with myself, and, just come across some things for you to think about. So whether you're, dealing with stress or conflict or something in a, romantic relationship or a friendship, or maybe it's some kind of familial relationship, parent-child, parent, grandparent, with your aunts or uncles, cousins, other extended family, siblings, you name it, some kind of family dynamics. We all have them, and they all can be good and or bad from time to time. That doesn't mean that, we have to go to like one extreme or the other. Like we have to love them because they're our family, or we have to hate them because they did something mean to us and, hurt us in some way, and we can never forgive them. So we kind of go where we cut people off, or, we no longer have contact. I definitely have felt both, and it can be hard. So I am not here to say either one of those are wrong. And I think that there are circumstances where it may be most beneficial to cut ties, to no longer have contact. I would say that that's probably less often the case, but sometimes necessary. Oftentimes it's just, hey, maybe we don't really need to communicate anymore, unless absolutely necessary. Sometimes it is because there's been some kind of rupture or damage that is maybe beyond a place that you think that can be healed or helped. I think we tend to fall into these extreme categories, and I often look at these types of things as being a lot of middle ground and gray area. We often think that a lot of our rules are black and white, and sometimes they are. But I think that a lot of times, at least a therapist may tell you, that there's a lot of context in situations. So yes, maybe something bad happened, or that wasn't maybe okay, but under the circumstances, it's understandable, or it was more normalized, more okay, etc. That can happen all the time. Speeding, for example, is not okay. It's against the law. But there may be circumstances where, it may be okay. There's definitely circumstances where you get away with it, myself included, but there will come a time where you can't get away with it anymore. You get pulled over, you get that ticket. So sometimes there's wiggle room, sometimes there's not, and there's a lot of circumstances in between those choices. So when somebody comes to me, for example, and they're talking about something that has gone on in a relationship, sometimes one of the questions I can ask is, okay, but what did you do? And that can feel really icky, maybe a little bad, especially if it's like, well, so-and-so cheated on me, or they lied to me, or um, they betrayed me, etc. And that may be that all those things could be very true, not denying it. And still my question may be, okay, well, what was your part in that relationship? I've also had to do some self-reflection in some of that as well with like my relationships. And it doesn't deflect from or take away from the fact that maybe that person did something wrong to you, but it's to help you understand that maybe you had a part in how things became the way they became. Now, your part could be this big and their part could be this big, right? I'm not, here to say whose part was bigger, but in a relationship, it takes at least two. And sometimes there's more than two people in a relationship. So there may be lots of angles at play. On top of the angles and the people, there's their history and their baggage that goes into the way they interact with and talk with each other. So a lot of, relational dynamics to consider. And when I am working with somebody on an individual basis, I want to challenge them to think about that and recognize, the other person may have done something to hurt you, and maybe you did not go out of your way to hurt that person, but there may have just been actions taken over time, things that you did or did not consider when having a relationship with this person that contributed to the end result. Again, that's not saying whatever happened in the end wasn't wrong of that person. It probably was. And fixating on it and belaboring it and ruminating over it and, it kind of stealing your joy and your time and your energy is not helping you any. So it comes down to a decision of, do you want to make it work? Do you not want to make it work? Whatever. Again, the friendship, the marriage, the relationship with a family member. Do you want that to work? How and why? And that will determine kind of the steps that you take and if that's even possible. So, oftentimes if you're dealing with that, you're just even thinking about and doing some like self-reflection, turn that camera around on you and just wonder, was there anything that I did or said, that maybe hurt them? Or is there anything I could have done differently in the process of our friendship? And you may not know, right? You may look back and really not be able to tell. And I know in reflecting on some relationships that I have had where maybe things didn't work out the way I had anticipated or wanted. I, initially felt like, no, I did absolutely nothing wrong here. And this is all their fault. And, spent a long time being very angry and hurt. And over time, given time and space and processing, was able to kind of turn that camera around and see maybe there were areas of like things I could have done differently or things I could have said differently. I still came back to this person took an action or did certain things that really, really hurt me. And I may have done something. And if it were to ever happen, I would want to talk about it. And then we could give each other feedback, and that would be leading towards more reconciliation. Are we able to give each other feedback, learn from each other, talk about what went right and what went wrong and why we felt the way we did? Like that would really be some true reconciliation, no matter what kind of relationship is going on. And at that point, you may decide, well, we can reconcile, but getting back into the relationship may not be an option. That happens. You could decide, there's just too many broken pieces here. Reconciling is not going to happen. Or it could be we are able to reconcile and maybe we are able to and wanting to reconnect that relationship and build on it again. Or anywhere in between any of those options, understanding that relationship may not look the same as it used to. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Oftentimes when there are separations or divorces or, things that happen in a marriage, I think the expectation is I want to go back to the way it was, before things got bad. And that, from what I've learned and what I've experienced, is not what's likely to happen, right? Because you both are different people by the time, you get to that place of reconciliation and fixing. You both have gone through what you've gone through. And maybe at the start of your relationship, you were, these people. And by, 10, 20, whatever years later, you're these people. You're two totally different people, both separate and together. So trying to be those people, it's not going to happen anymore. So it's being able to say, hey, we're these people now. Can we proceed as these people moving forward and continue to be these people together in this relationship? Or is that possible? Some people will ultimately determine like that's not possible. We are different people. We don't see, each other the same way anymore, and they part ways. Some people feel that way, but they're like, we do still want to make it work, and we can still make it work, and we still love each other. We just love each other differently now. And it looks different than it did before, and that's okay too. So I'm just kind of throwing out some thoughts here and things as I've seen this come up with clients, and I've seen this come up in my personal life. And, I've had people even, that will surprise me and throw out questions and have understandings that maybe I wasn't even having. When you feel really closely and really intensely about a situation where somebody has hurt you, sometimes that outside opinion doesn't feel very good, where, maybe they're saying the truth, hey, well, you have to consider that this person is dealing with a lot. And, my logical brain goes, you're right. My emotional brain goes, but I don't care. And that, if you're coming to therapy, that's kind of the same thing that is happening, right? We're detached from your personal situation that may be difficult. And we're able to say those things because we are able to maybe see what the other person could potentially be experiencing. And we're trying to help you through that. And so it may be asking those questions. So sometimes people can feel like, why are they defending the other person here? They're my therapist. In my case, I'm not necessarily defending them, but I am trying to get you to see that maybe there's another side to the story that you're not seeing. Maybe there's another option. Maybe there's another angle here because you're in it, right? And it's hard. And when you're in it and it's hard, you can't really see the other camera angles, the other sides here. But someone like me who's not in it can potentially do that. Now, you may have family members or friends who are able to do that and who are willing to, challenge you on some of the thoughts and feelings that you're having. And that may frustrate you. That may upset you. That's okay. But have some grace for yourself and for them, and understand like that, hey, they're trying to help me. They're trying to help me to like remain calm, but also play devil's advocate here and say like there's other sides to this story that you may not be seeing, and it's important for you to consider that. It may not change your mind. You may still feel the way you feel. That's okay, right? There's stuff going on in my life where I feel the way I feel, and I feel very strongly and I think very strongly about certain situations, and I can understand those other perspectives. And I'm, trying to incorporate those into it. That's not necessarily going to change the way I feel about like what's going on and how I see things moving forward. It could. It very well could. It's also sometimes very dependent on the other person in the relationship. So when I talk about it, I have to remind people like, you can only control you. So if the other person does not want to engage or does not want to make things better, you're going to have to figure out the boundary here. You're going to have to figure out what's going to protect you and make things okay, manageable for you. And if that is not communicating, maybe that's what it looks like. Maybe you've tried all the communicating and nothing's changing and nothing's getting better, and you're like, that's it, I've had it. But maybe you haven't yet. Maybe you haven't said, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. And in which case, maybe it's warranted. And once you get through that conversation and it's still not great, well, then maybe, you've tried and you've reached a place where, hey, they're not going to change their mind. And I'm at a place where I'm only changing so much and I'm not willing to go into that area. So here's where we stand. So when all of this to say, when you're thinking about connections that you have with other people and there's stress and there's conflict, can we take a step outside of ourselves and see that conflict from other angles and understand what the other person may be thinking, feeling, going through? And if not, can we broach that conversation? Can we try to talk to them about it, and see if that changes anything? And it may not be an easy process, right? Those conversations maybe have been avoided for years and years and years and years. And so the tension is real thick. And that's where, like, whether it's family counseling or couples counseling could be beneficial to try to navigate and referee those conversations so that they can happen and you can gain some of that compassion for the other person and some of that insight. I hope you found this helpful. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still learning. And, sometimes, just like you, when you're the outside person, it's easy to look at another person's situation and know how to handle it. But when it's you, it's a lot harder to handle because you're in it, right? So having those other people that can be a sounding board can be helpful to, challenge you and help you get through and maybe know what's best, the best way to handle those situations. It's also good to have those people you can just vent to, you can talk to, you can complain to, and they're going to be there to listen. But when you need that feedback, let them know. When you don't want it and you just want to vent, you just want to cry, it's okay to say that too. But I don't want you to stay there. I don't want you to stay in that place where I'm just venting and we're not trying to fix it in any way. So thank you for joining me today, and I will have something new to talk about next week. See you again next time.